Hello and welcome to Beehave. Looking forward to the election. This week we'll be getting a comment from John Key, the Prime Minister, hyped up and ready to go. But first, in the aftermath of the spat about national standards, Anne Tolley is finally happy that schools are coming into line, and she's here to give us the benefit of her opinions. Good afternoon, Minister. Hello. So, Minister, is it true that you sent a letter to Aranga School in Northland saying that they were going to be put under limited statutory management over national standards?
Must have been a typo.
Are there actually any legal grounds for you to do this in response to a duress statement?
No.
And how many other schools were in line to receive similar letters?
I think most schools have now stopped throwing the toys out of the pram. I think they've realised who's boss.
Weren't you just trying to bully the schools into complying?
Not really. People voted for us. They've got to come into line. I think even the Steiner Schools understand that now.
Let's discuss them then. As the UK begins its state funding of Steiner Schools, how do you see the future of Steiner Schools in New Zealand?
I think you could say that we've entered into a constructive dialogue.
What does that mean?
It means they do as they're told and we like it.
So do Steiner Schools have to fulfil national standards or not?
Like I said in my letter, if any board of a Steiner school cannot accept standards, the proprietor has the option of requesting cancellation of the school's integration agreement so that the school becomes a private school.
Didn't John Key tell parents recently in Hawke's Bay that it didn't matter if Steiner children failed the standards?
Well, as long as they advertise that fact. What the Prime Minister said was this. He said, meeting your legal obligation can be saying to your parents, our children do not meet national standards for 5 and 6 year olds, and we're happy with that. That's cool.
So they just, have that as a disclaimer?
Well, they don't teach the kids to read until they're over 7, so they're kind of going to have to.
Yet the Federation of Steiner Schools in New Zealand has managed to negotiate a situation with the government where Steiner children will never ever have to be tested alongside the rest of the population again. Isn't that so, Minister? The New Zealand Qualification Authorities approved Steiner School certificates at levels 1, 2 and 3. They're now part of the New Zealand Qualifications Framework as quality assured New Zealand qualifications.
Yes, well...
So they've basically got everything they want, haven't they?
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
Well, the Federation of Steiner Schools in New Zealand would, because they wrote that this is a very important step for Steiner Schools. They said that it means the future of Steiner Schools in New Zealand cannot be overestimated and that it will provide a state-recognised pathway for Steiner pupils through to tertiary education. So although you're telling me that you've brought them into line, well, the Prime Minister himself has basically said that Steiner Schools can say to prospective parents, don't worry, we'll fail the early testing, but after that, we've got a protected path all the way through to university, so don't worry about it. They've basically got everything they want.
Now, they do have quality control.
As judged by who?
By the Steiner Federation.
Steiner people.
Well, of course, who else could understand them?
The qualifications are necessarily based on what the teacher can see, read or hear, or sometimes touch and taste.
I beg your pardon?
The assessment is externally checked, both before and after a task leading to formal assessment is given.
What?
Both before and after a task leading to formal assessment is given. It's not even really grammar, is it?
I don't know what you mean.
Leading to formal assessment is given. Back to those standards again, Minister.
Quite. The basics.
So what's all the shouting been about then?
They've been pretty angry.
So why haven't they been shouting about this in the press then?
Who?
I can't find any mention of this qualifications thing next to the problems about standards. Is it a set-up, Minister? Of course, the World Cup is very distracting from the fact that there will be a general election in New Zealand within 2 months from now. We're looking at the new approach taken by John Key in his pre-electioneering electioneering.
Last night there was a green party. I got dressed up as an elf. Phil was always green with envy, so he went along as himself. The driver hardly spoke English, but he was a peachy chap. The party was in Wellington, but he used an Auckland map. I said to the driver, can you hurry, we're a bit late. Marianne Street, do you know? He said, yeah, sure, that's no problem. It's not far for you to go. The party was full of lefties, so I decided to remain just an hour. I mean, why tolerate being ignored when everyone knows Simon Power? I saw two familiar faces, getting closer and closer. One was really gross, and the other was even grosser. was Helen and Winston, Tonto and the Lone Ranger. Horror mia, what a shocker. Talk about dicing with danger. Helen was pissed as a fart. It really didn't suit her. She grabbed me by my collie! And then she squeezed my hooter. Then Winston took a photo for a file that he was amassing. And I said, I think you better hand it in to my people. Because don't you know, I'm the smiling assassin.
Beehave.